Good morning. So we'll start with making a mandala offering as a token for requesting your teachings, and then Geshe will lead the way with refuge and bodhicitta for correcting your motivation. So if you know those verses, you're welcome to join in, and if not, that's also okay. Sa shi po ki ju shi me to tam ri ra bling shi ni de yen pa di san ye shin du Mikte owa gidroku namda shin la chu pa shoidang guru ratnamanda
Sangi Chodang Tsogi Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dami Kyabsun Chi Dagi Chushi Yebon Zada Golan Penshi Sangi Drupa Sho Sangi Chodang Tsogi Chonam La
Chanchu Bardu Dami Kyabsun Chi Dagi Chushi
Yebon Zada Gi Golan Penshi Sangi Drupa Sho Sangi Chodang Tsogi Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dami Kyabsun Dagi Chushi Yebon Zadagi Golan Penshi Sangi Drupa Sho Kangi tuzi nizoni dawa tamze pambijere tambichun denze bikwadam kela chanze lo. Good morning, everyone. Anzi lojong nimi yeser. Shugu yores zanimalara içinde komanyong edindi yabayna.
So good morning, everyone. During the Sunday morning sessions, we're looking at a text that is called Mind Training, like the rays of the sun. So we have copies floating around. This is what we've been looking for the last few months.
Yeah. Shortang lai.
Do you know what page we are in the printed book? I have no idea. So we're at a section that explains, I have an e-copy of that, so I have no idea what's the page number. Sorry? 106. Thank you. The section explaining the way to cultivate the ultimate mind of enlightenment.
어디래다? 어쩌다니 로종 슬라운디다 로 간다스 종고 예메 거를 때때 세부 쉬우지기 그봐 로종 님이 왔을 때 세슈지레샤스 그봐 직창상로지 간지 넘버 3기 위치를 도나 칭인지 디나니 대부 침비치를 도나 칭인지 바이나 오늘 배마스브 세부친 송샤주지 and so this 대비 에는 위치 갑깔에 this 시투바이나 야시자 담바디 펜도 여바 야시자 담바레샤스로.
And so we're looking at this text that explains the way to train our mind, the way to transform our mind. And the way of doing so is so clearly explained in this text. Particularly for those of us who are interested in the Buddha Dhamma, interested in the Mahayana Dhamma, this book offers a really extensive explanation of the way to transform a mind along the Buddha Dhamma and the Mahayana Dhamma. So from time to time, it is really beneficial to read through some sections of the book again in order to be reminded how to transform one's mind.
그래서 학도인도 당한 좀 draw missing 이 차연자 draw 민디 아니 다 산지 좀 된디게 draw 셴리 캐버드 파비기 남주 주의에 되어지 인자 아니 간주 draw 미 있던래야 다 산지 공부 draw 있나야 draw 투야 안줄래야 남주 그 주의에 니바 캐버 체인지 이어봐 송구요레스 그러다디 samdana di rewas ra anju pena zamblin na lo ya so chak rik jamandra bumcha mambu yigires ine ti na ne 셴피 심전 탐지 라야 상고다니 펜디 드바이나 드퉁이디 먼저 드바 미마도 요 말was 메타처럼 아니 직 돈을라 써발이야 가주 실라바이나야 아니 그 남규를 때니 고토야 된지다 키다 박발라 써베 그거 되느냐 디파 셴랄랍투야게 니바디 콘줄에 짜니니 콘줄 류덴텔이야 중요하게 탑시코로 요 말왔어 먼저 디 요바인자 딘디 니바 캐버치 요바디 니바 콤볼 따야디 소소소 겐티리스 소소소 케벤 소소소 톱당 딘디 용발아야 아니 로종 그 쇼온 딘디질이야 마장 탐에로지 차기도 왔어.
And so for us as living beings that wander through different states of existence in samsara and cyclic existence, we as human beings are endowed with wisdom or intelligence that can be developed further on. It is a special, particular type of intelligence that can be developed. So we use this intelligence that we have now as a basis for developing a mind to follow the steps leading to the state of Buddhahood and for ourselves to become Buddhas. That can be done. It depends upon developing our own wisdom, our own intelligence. So that there's a great variety of living beings, hundreds of thousands of species living at least on this planet. And when we think of our ability to think of the welfare of others, to work for the sake of others, to accomplish the welfare of others, it seems that we as human beings are capable of developing our mind, developing our intelligence in order to be able to do so. But others are limited in their capacity to undergo those trainings to develop that utmost wish to be of benefit to others. So of course, other living beings are also endowed with some intelligence or wisdom. So, we said that, for example, pigs are kind of smart animals. So, pigs can be intelligent, dogs can be intelligent and so forth, but still they're quite limited in their ability to develop their mind, to develop the wisdom, to be of utmost benefit to others, to work for the sake of the welfare of living beings. Whereas we as human beings have this particular type of wisdom that can be developed in order to do so. So we have the ability to do so. In some sense, we can say that this is our responsibility to use our wisdom to do so. We'll reap the benefit of doing so. We have the right to do so. And therefore, when we look at the set of instructions that these texts offer, in some sense, we can say that for us to become indispensable, we have to train in them in order to be able to be of utmost benefit to others.
나딘자다 다 심전 탐질래야 펜디 주야기 뉴버디 가릭통이 연구열에서 나온디 세와당 셰르블라텐 로디 또 디란다 셴펜 주야기 차기 연하면아디 셴래야 제비 세와당 아니 비기게 우윤내수 유긴내로 통이 셰르님보디 더 조레스 로 산지기 출래야 또 뒤차가도 왔으라. 아니 산기비 최번남다 속에 되게 겹순 들어서기 겹이야. 아니 저와의 셰르 차가도 왔으라.
And so to develop our ability to bring benefit to others, to bring happiness to others, we need to then combine the development of two features. First of all, love and care for others, and then wisdom. So to gather the conditions conducive for developing altruism, the benefit of others, we need to develop love, and we also need to develop love and wisdom that understands reality, the way that things are. And it begins with our way of going for refuge. Even with going for refuge, we then think that our refuge would be the development of these two aspects, love and wisdom.
들에 배나 산기기다 송라야 안치다 데누숨 송도 왔으라. 데누숨 디파 체바이나 아니 둘비숑 세미숑 옹비숑 도르딕숑 다 숑까붕알이야 체는 용기어레스 숑까붕아도 스마 송디 빼는 드비 데누 송디 골라야 탐진 캠발의 찬슬로스 탐진 캠발의 찬슬로 탐진 킹인기 셰르 넘버 탐진 킹비 이실이야 아니 차트는 캡스트리 토니 아니 드비숑디 체기어레스 안 세미숑 송디 세물 기본 롤런 페시버 템버디시 껴라 찬슬로스 라운디 조 디피게 탐킬라 투지 쳔볼 데미 템버딜이야 아니 캐치 이기고네 저와의 셰르 캐버트 파비 캐치 팅이기고네 아니 세물 기본 바치리야 손니 쇼버쇼기어레스 아니 다 이게 딱 몬비숑 세나 페나 오미숑레야 조딥다 고물루두다 반전 다와차발로 소비 손티기 차고레스라 아니 반전 다와차비기 통모 손디 당방하시는 달라시기 다기 대신 조주체대로 롤링인지 교가 텔라두스 아니 저원인지 첨보티 아니 간지 로스르제 탐지기 산지 공부드발라야 드버체발라야 통타 파르스물이야 개체와 이미 균생기 심전 탐지기 된드발라야 통타 파르스물 개체와 이미 균생 딘리지기 토니 안저원인지 첨볼이야 쳐버져 대봐 딘리지 레샤스라.
And so the Buddhist teachings can be collected into three sets of teachings that are called in Sanskrit the three Pitaka, the three baskets of teachings. And when we divide those teachings further on, we look at the five great classics or the five great texts, teaching Vinaya, the way of taming a mind through ethical discipline, teaching the system of valid cognition, called in Sanskrit Pramana. So Vinaya, Pramana, Abhidhamma, the system of knowledge, the scriptural system dealing with sutras, and the scriptural system dealing with the middle way system. So these are called the five classics. And then when we look at how some of those texts begin, like for example, the text that explain the way to tame one's behavior through ethical discipline begins with paying homage to omniscience, which means to exalted consciousness that knows all aspects, all phenomena. Then the text that explains valid cognition, reasoning, and such, from the text on Pramana, begins with paying homage to the one that became a valid being through the development of love and wisdom. The text on the middle way system, the philosophical view of the middle way system, the Madhyamika system, texts that were composed by great Indian scholars, such as, for example, Nagarjuna and one of his followers, Chandrakirti. Like, for example, Chandrakirti, a follower of Nagarjuna, wrote a famous text called the Supplement to the Middle Way. And in the third verse of the first chapter, it says, first, with the thought I am, they cling to a self. Then with the thought mind, they become attached to things, like buckets on a water wheel. They turn without control. I bow to compassion that cares for such suffering beings, paying homage to compassion. Finished.
Finished?
Finished.
Are you sure?
They finished. Time to go home.
Yeah. Ani diri da kumbulu dugi umatsawa sherab. Da umishong da yona mena. Zawa umatsawa songenza. Higi chujula ya kangi tukzi nye zoni tawa tamji pambichir. Pambichir tenzi vi kodum tela chanselo slowani. So pigi ani kechu di tukzewa chenpo tang namba tamji kimbi ishi ni ani ngawi toni ani simja tamjila ya pigi ta chu ngubi nilu chidawa shin tengi tenpa tela ya chakses. So on so di chamzi ni yigwani ani chobo di jogu yores ra.
The gola dende chiklambe yamana thala.
The chitang shong di taler ma di chuju shong di shagda chobo ju shong
저 가서 the
kan de ni zong ati
also Nagarjuna composed a great text that is called The Root of Wisdom. And at the end of the text, and sometimes this verse is pushed up to the beginning of the text, is paying homage to the Buddha, pay homage to Gautama, who through fully holding loving concern taught the holy Dhamma for the sake of abandoning all views.
teni jidun chambon gombo ge tenjung ondo gen da pigi ge song di ge so di ani yum campus la ya Geshe lam shin nam kin slam di so di sheruk chani ro adile ya chobo jog dos.
Now, we also have the system of the perfection, drawing from the sutras. So one of the great texts that we follow that covers the system is called the Ornament for Clear Realization, in Sanskrit, the Abhisama Alamkara. Again, at the beginning of the text, it begins not only with paying homage to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it pays homage to the sutras, the Perfection of Wisdom sutras. It says that which, through the knowledge of all, leads here seeking pacification to peace, that which through the knower of paths cause those benefiting migrating beings to achieve the aims of the world, and through the perfect possession of which subdues teach these varieties having all aspects. To the mother of the Buddhas as well as the host of hearers and bodhisattvas, I pay homage.
And the Bishikura Danadi living in Wombunze, the Gabungan, and Sondi, Wombunze Zavati living in Zebares, living in Toma Delia, and Wombunze Chujulea, Kanshi Kunlam, number 10 Chumshi, Korean Damlin, Rawa Transepa, Tension, Tembatella, Charles.
And finally, we have also the beginning of the text on Abhidhamma composed by an Indian master called Vasubandhu. At the beginning of the text, it says, to the one who has utterly destroyed the darkness with respect to all, extricates migrating beings from the mire of cyclic existence, and teaches in accordance with the meaning, homage.
Odiri Dinza, Sevanji Chempotan. Nilu Tombani Topi, Sherwin Bodita, and Capchosagi, Kabu Yana Menati, Nanzo Koatan, Nansung Dungas and Mandu, Kanji Mundi with Dunga Tamjeli, and Trova Chengindi, Kabdi, Kaptungindi, and Sevat the Sherwilla, Munzi Chigdus,
So in doing so, Geshe now pulled out those 5 classics, the root text for the philosophical systems that we follow in this Buddhist tradition, and all of them begin with paying homage to love and to the wisdom of reality, the wisdom that understands the way that things exist. So that if we seek to be free from samsara, if we want to emerge from our samsaric state, what we need to do is to find refuge in the development of love and in the development of wisdom.
Dirida, dinza dindigi, dirida. Dinza da dindigi, zawadang, shirimnindi, ani rangulaya, chunsul di, da sewu shuji, sewu shuji, ani shondi namalaya, songdos, tara, tingansul gyuenza, da sewu shuji songdos, ra.
And so looking at the development of these two, love and love, or loving concern for others, and wisdom, when you read through this text, Mind Training Like the Rays of the Sun, it is so clear that this is the quintessential, or these are the quintessential instructions that this text is providing.
Diri, pena, danga, kaduina dawachilaya, ra, and ngara donang chesagi tsu, rodi, and the number sanji big chudi, chason, the chinjun konikot, the big take mambu jiki, pama in a re, momo in a re, then gigging cutting, and it to chudo mambu garden then, Suzu Metsedi, the chu and the number sanji big chu, lozon chejilaya, the Metsiki edge. The charos, right? Things are when the shocking out Yalandi and temple garden channel, 260, 20 years. And it's shogi Jawarmuchi, so the Jawarmuchi, Kalab Tindita, and Piggy YouTube download the Mamushuch, Inge Tolandu, Peggy Tolandu, and Mamushu Tindita, this shocking out this, Niedi Yasra. 아니 양samba지래요. 다나쇼기 주주숨도 제가 이어서지래요. 가버 직대한테 안달 라마치 수 가주비 라마치 가주비 라마 염소 라마 겐고치 당가 마고 캔딩 그게 짱만 야딩이죠. 당신 생등이 심어서 코란리아 미지기 처티디 랜데브 손데치 유튜브는 통상 되게 갑자기 진행과 색치 결국들어 배 인지 보시지 인지 가서 수수 셈려야 배디 태부시지 아니 남바산지 위치를 라발이야 토마 기위신이래 땡고도 마데란데라다 비추 신인지기 말럽나 태블 때는 신고마로 타마텔이야 기위신이 랍서비 제려야 아니 비 아니 숑 비기 다 벤트줍된 그 줍이 아니 홍그 기회 담에 손샤비기 아니 손도 좀 제치네 아니 다 결정 제치 그래도 왔어 타마디 수수 네번이 줍이 제려야 수수 네번이 비기 아니 샘텔 때니 텔려 공지치네 상기 거야지 지단 데려왔어 그래서 공기 다가라 담보 라마 댄스 파트 페차 라마 댄스 타마 란섬 라마 댄스 그래서 즉 대변이죠. 담보 라마 댄스. 파마라야 람딘 제통인기 라마 센데지라야 라마 댄고 그래서 파트 페차라야 라마 댄스. 타마 란섬래 라마 댄스. 딘디지 띵아 데리마도 고녀메로 띵아 나는 쇼긴가 코스 베 세미나라야 베 펜부더지 뭔데야 삼삼더지 딘즈 장 대바이나야 문차 메바치 장 여바치 레샤스로
So Geshe has been studying and practicing Buddhism for many years, beginning with actually at a very young age, having grown up in Eastern Tibet, born into a family of nomads. His introduction to the Buddhist tradition and Buddhist culture was right from the very early stages of being an infant. So kind of his grandma and his mother, then following that his teachers and Dharma friends and so forth, all of them took part in a process of having invested most of his life in studying and practicing Buddhism. So then still to that very day, Geshe says that as he wakes up every morning, he recites that verse that we mentioned from Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise on the middle way. I pay homage to Gautama, who through fully holding loving concern taught the holy Dhamma for the sake of abandoning all views. And then Geshe says that after doing some reflection, he also then tries to listen to teachings. And there are now teachings available online, YouTube. You can look for teachings given by Zonis or other masters. You have them in Tibetan, you have them in English, you have them in so many other languages. There's so many resources that you can use and listen to teachings. So Geshe also does that, tries to do it every day. So today, for example, Geshe woke up at 3:30 at night, and then, after doing some reflection, it was looking for something to listen to, and he came across on YouTube some advice or teachings that were given by an elderly Lama, probably from the Kagyu tradition within Tibetan Buddhism. Anyway, it was speaking about how you follow the stages of training your mind, beginning with, first of all, making sure that you properly rely upon a spiritual teacher, recognizing that the way to train your mind, the knowledge of training your mind will not arise in your mind on its own accord without being taught how to do so. So you have to then rely upon a spiritual teacher. Then, if you just pick up a book and you read through the book, it is likely that you will not be able to understand most of it. I mean, we kind of have to also recognize that those ancient Buddhist texts are written in a cryptic way without having someone that explains what the meaning is of those texts. It's really difficult to understand them just through reading through some passages. So you rely upon a spiritual teacher, you rely upon scripture, but then having studied for some time, you then have to use that knowledge to develop your mind. And therefore he said that this Lama recited this verse that Geshe hasn't had before, but it was really nice. It was really inspiring. So he said that initially, your virtuous friend is your Lama. In the middle, your text, the text that you study, are your Lama. And at the end, your own mind is your Lama. So this is actually, it's a really nice presentation to think of how you follow those stages of development where, first of all, you need to be taught by a Lama, then you need to do your own research and contemplation and so forth. And at the end, you have to develop your own mind, and your own mind becomes your Lama. Geshe said that we have some goodies at the back if you guys want to have some goodies. Biscuits, chocolates. Do we have some puja leftovers? Could you pull them out, please? Every once in a while, we have food pujas with chocolates and some other stuff. Those are the best pujas. So you can have a fight.
제가 개첨부를 송디 제가 개첨부를 송디 아니 지당 감수 줄이야 제가 초그리와 지기 여러 왔다로 제가 초그리와 디기 디 개첨부를 송고 매바 디자자 잘했었어 제가 초그리와 디기 감수 줄이야 착당 shukcher tangado asra chagdan shukcher ron digi ani magibati mang rogora dara ani kanga mamu chagoras ra ngangoshiba tanda gyanagi mikashi jiye dawala konzu ngalaro tensan gyana nalola ya bugu mamu shuchi rangshi gyagoresa kansana pama dozogi ani susu bugu di peti yakshuchi bugu shambali yagachi ani chagogres labchi teni peti ani shuji pigila ya janzun chechi ani lobjong chechu lobjong che diang ani benjur saya dang chik chong gya dang chigora da tenji gi pe an chiongdi ani bugu hajang ge busu tobu chani ani bugu samkom tenji cha rogores inza cha ani zewa chogri wa digi ani chagdang chung yanza an disungu mondos ra da zewa he maybe zewa set ra nguyo nitsu ki pigi ani 장병기 일단 잔념기 세워져라 디 세워디 공발당당 디순고요레스
And so it's so important to develop this aspect of love and concern for others. So this is what we use in our mind training practice. We use a certain degree of loving concern that we have for others to develop it further on. And we certainly have some degree of love and concern for others, but for the time being, it's still partial, in the sense that it's still subject or influenced by anger and attachment. So long as anger and attachment, that sense of partiality, is present in our mind, our unhappiness, will still increase. We'll still encounter difficulties and problems if our mind is biased or partial through anger, attachment, and so forth. Geshe had the other day a conversation with one of his friends, a Chinese person, and he said that speaking sometimes with people back home in China, he says it seems that the suicide rate amongst students or people of young age is on the rise. There's so much pressure to excel at school, to become a successful student, to to outdo all your peers, competing for money and wealth and social status and business and so forth, and it gives rise to so much pressure. So the suicide rate is on the rise. This sense of disturbance is brought forth through anger, attachment, and so forth. So what we seek to develop is a state of mind that is more balanced, that is more equal, you could say, and that is developed through developing untainted love and concern for others.
maybe zewa pigi yongyala ani zewa singi di dunga da thamdu ki number chinki ani lojile ya da zewa singi dos da dunga da thawande lawandi thagyu dunga di ra dunga dungwese so samkam ki dunga 대양 용사가 싸워디 몽비왕기 미시비왕기 라 작담 모습으로 서 디왕기 더 동을 연구연사 아니 대탐지 싸워도 몽보 마리발이야 투여바 더 동을 세버체발이야 랑더 셴기 동을 세버체발이야 동을 간리 존서가 규 몽보 마리와 세줄데 송고레스 몽보 마리와 셀 통인디 아니 최남기 대권은이 닐루 대권은이 또비 셰르디 바시 차고한자 아니 셰르블야 랍수티 다 디니디 아니 쇼운디 나올라야 다 세우슈 송고레스라.
And so when we speak about love and concern for others here, what we mean is the development of wish for others to be free from suffering. So if we were to develop the wish for others to be free from suffering, first off, we need to understand what it means, what suffering is. And there are different levels of suffering. But the main one that we wish others to be free from is mental suffering, mental pain. And also to be able to wish others to be free from mental pain, we also need to understand the origin of mental suffering, mental pain. So from the point of view of the Buddhist explanation, it begins with confusion, with ignorance or confusion with respect to reality, not understanding how things exist, not understanding reality correctly. We develop anger, attachment, and so forth. Then they lead us through a process by which we end up experiencing suffering and pain. So to be able to remove suffering, to clear it away, we have to deal with the root cause of suffering, which is confusion, delusion, or ignorance with respect to reality. And the way to remove that ignorance is to develop wisdom, to develop the wisdom of reality. And this is what this text, this system is teaching, the way to develop not only love, but also the wisdom that understands reality.
and the Nalanda garden ya kundra mambu chikshang asra ani kundra digidi lobin digidi sama lo ani chamze dang sherab laya ani janchini richi kanzing toni janchini ani pendu ta kyoding kyang chagores konambi and kudzi kambolaya ani jojen dingi tolaya lobjongchi ani gom gyap otu sini nyon tenchini teni manganzula labshet ending ki lebin kangyares and chansun joni migilian senjan yori senjan dani chichene ani that senjan dezu toni chima chijin da kotu mardayine ya sama chi jichen da dus malam chigabana tendi yagu yores ro.
So as you made your way today to this space, to the Gompa, you came through likely through the Nalanda Master's garden. So we have quite a few statues in that garden. And these statues are statues of the 17 Pandits of the Nalanda Monastery, which used to be a big monastic university in India. And those 17 Nalanda masters, those Pandits, taught love and compassion, love and wisdom. Most of their life, they've undergone training for the development of love and for development of wisdom. So in terms of the study, then meditation, and then giving rise to an actual experience of love and wisdom, they taught us the methods for doing that. So you can then later on, when you make your way back, you can look at those different statues. They have, each one of them have a plaque with a name and also a verse that explains their activities. So of course, just using the name or one verse is really difficult to develop. It could be difficult to develop a really deep understanding of everything that those masters have accomplished, but still you can get a rough sense of what those masters taught based upon their own personal experience. So it's quite nice to do that. And you can also make aspirational prayers. You can also make aspirations for the development of such aspects of love and compassion, love and wisdom.
That number one tanigi chamzedang sherab tolaya kanji ani champagne driptang tolaya ani chebot zoba somsum tolaya tokpa mengi gangyang res tokpa mengi gangyang ro ani sanjang dozu shuche ani sosu nangla pa droni ani pigita Google nangla ya chi jeba na mang che namdar je thugres ngone tani tagas mares ngone tagas mares ta dindi chi je thubana ti ta sosu mezen an kawa san shi chrewas ro nganzo da duzu chen zam ya ma ko chini ani metse trolan ro de kazus yores ro.
For developing love and wisdom, they have composed texts, engaged in debate, gave explanation of the way to develop love and wisdom. sometimes when you read through some of the life stories of some of those masters, you can come to appreciate the extent to which they have gone through to develop love and wisdom, explain it, debate it, compose texts that explain how to do it. So it's not a trivial matter what they have accomplished. It's really great.
Number two, daily payoning on the colon, Tommy Colonia, and a good digity, Jero Chebaina, and Su Jebaina, and Su Samgonlaya, and it gave Pacha Kabawachi, Shatugri, Samni, Colon T. Canada, and the Chuzok to Shanyores. Shanyores, Ra, Tinza, and those Jeon Dige, on Rosan Chambushu, Tanyosari, Dog, Zesha Samson, Mayimba. Only the Jiggy Pendry Kanjach, Zambalin the Le, Pevior, Samson. Nanzu Digi was the jet to your Mardina, and Digi, that's so Digidilea, in Jimmy, the Sindina chick, jet was Chego, Samson. Digi Tamjari Shawaina, and his family, Pacha Cabaji shoe, in the Shagos race.
And so for us, when we see those statues, it's really important to make sure that we have the right attitude, the right motivation, thinking that we want to find inspiration to develop those qualities in ourselves, to develop love and kindness, to develop love and compassion to others, to develop wisdom. So from studying the scriptures, the writings of those masters, through then using them as methods for developing our mind, we'll be able to we'd be able to develop our mind in a similar fashion. So they have provided so much benefit to this world. So rather than thinking that looking at those statues and thinking that it must be really expensive, or they're made of this really heavy stone that look pretty impressive, rather than being casual about it, it's good to just use that as a reference for thinking of how teachings that teach how to develop love and wisdom are so beneficial, and they can also be beneficial to us, thinking that this is actually what I want to do. I want to develop in my own mind love and concern for others. I want to develop wisdom in using those scriptural systems. And if we think about it like that, we also place those potent imprints upon our mind stream.
어디래다 디인자다 드링한서 참디 쪼디 단지슈대야겠다 세바다 셔르니기 나니 다 잠지 거디 찬상 아니 손스바레스 당한서 다 페이지 로니스 저거 손스바레스 당한서 셔르브 거들이야 셔르브 동바니 또비 셔르브 거리야 레고다 생zam로디 내가 지금 lok사인상서 최는 물론 따버서 마기리비 실제 And
so we will continue with the text on the point that we left off in the previous session. So as we're looking at mind training like the rays of the sun, and as we said, it teaches the development of love and then the development of wisdom. We've been looking at this text for probably almost 2 years. So we have finished the section looking at the development of love and concern for others. Hola. And then now we are looking at the section that explains the way to develop wisdom. So we are going to see what the text is. It's here. So we have read through this verse that explains, first off, in the context of training in the ultimate awakening mind, the text says, and the text is the 7-point mind training. So it says, consider all phenomena as like dreams, examine the nature of unborn awareness. The remedy itself is released in its own place. Place the essence of the path on the nature of the basis of all.
The Chenum and the other do that second time business. Songi debi chenam demi de tenla pakso. Ni benin zimbi debi chenam demi de tenla pakso. Zimbi ni pi da demba yume chongkin ki ani yuje rangi kyang or kansa rangi kyang ani demi de shitsu. Tenam chi gum chavi tsu. 깜반 타면이 제니 많이 비텐라 친구들 트러블 조금 기고니 냠자도 좀 림바인라스.
And so we spoke about some of the meaning of this verse in the previous session. So it says the first line indicates the method for determining the lack of true existence of phenomena included amongst the objects that are apprehended by the mind. Right, so the first line saying, consider all phenomena as like dreams, determining that they do not truly exist. Then the second refers to the technique for establishing the lack of true existence for the consciousness which apprehend things. So phenomena do not truly exist, and also the mind apprehending them does not truly exist. And the third line indicates the means for comprehending the lack of true existence, even of yourself, the investigators. So as persons, we investigate whether things are truly established or whether they're not truly established. So there are the phenomena that we examine, but there's also we, the person that is doing the investigation. We as persons, we also do not truly exist. We're not truly established. So it says these are modes of carrying out analytical meditation. The last line refers to the process safeguarding your meditative equipoise through meditation, free from laxity and excitement, and the meaning of what is not found by analysis.
The Songi Dubi Chunum Demed Tenla Papa, the Chunum Mulam Tower Sums, Mulam Tower Slaundi, Nangshin Demba Meba, no other Matrupa, said Sungores, no other Matrupa.
So when we consider the meaning of the first line, it says it indicates the method for determining the lack of true existence of phenomena, included amongst the objects that are apprehended by the mind. And that first line says, consider all phenomena as like dreams, in that phenomena appear to our mind in a certain way. So there is the way that they appear to us and the way that they exist in reality. And there is a discrepancy between the way that things appear to our mind and the way that they exist in reality. And because there is a discrepancy between the mode of appearance and the mode of existence, they are like a dream.
The non-ter Madhu said, Sigdi, Pe, and Nenga Chimbu, Sigorisra, Pena, non-ter Madhu said, Pena, Tangi Pe Karshasha Reves, Angi Pe Karshana, Shachog Reves, Consalakiji Chidara, Lingi Page Shago.
So we said that things do not exist in the way that they appear to us. And there's a great meaning to be drawn when you think of how there is something that appears to the mind, but it does not exist in this way. And there are examples or analogies that can illustrate that. And if you wonder what kind of analogy or an example can we use for demonstrating the discrepancy between the mode of existence and the mode of appearance, well, Geshe can give you one example.
The non-ter Madhu said, Yam Sembudoja, Penangal do stay on the Tokutan the Tamaling it, Tobora, that Tamaling it, could try the Tukbush does the Tukbush, Tangi do stay on the Kalaka shoes, Madeva shoes. Yes, Rosing Aldinangoras. Koran page massive that true your that did not the Madhu said. You do stone the Madeva shoes. Nanta test chikiva in a lamsam pe Savra lang in Roach. Do shana mother cuni. They would
So giving an example of things do not existing in a way that they appear to one's mind. So I forgot your name. Nico, yeah. So Nico just came in a couple of minutes ago, and you sport a really nice dreadlock thing. And Geshe said that when he looks at that, kind of he thinks that if he were to grow dreadlocks, it would probably be uncomfortable. But you find it completely comfortable, right? So, Geshe says that kind of, if he were to try to grow dreadlocks like that, it would probably kind of initially itchy and not comfortable and so forth, but you find it completely comfortable.
Nangi later there tell kun government ni later ngadangi ma thasal de ani ni geta ajadang kunzu putin diyorta pugulabtan de konsang kala ngaza yon degoras angin samza mi chi chungan ro da sangan ro chin ro gyaga riksho nalo ya riksho di goja yo marada sagba pune jeon sun jeongra da konzu ngi chile deni ani sagba gi samza cha de dongbal thegro da konzu cha ngape sorgi kenza 큰 가임에서라 konzu lagre konzu ngazal dena asan cha thuna nyob dorsa di an ko ngazal dena konzu lamsa cha den jush.
It's probably Geshe's karma, not liking hair in general. So when Geshe was studying at Sera Monastery in South India, sometimes sometimes one of his relatives and used to come to see him with some school kids, and on the break time he used to sometimes go out with them, take them out to the shops or to restaurants. So you have to take a rickshaw from the monastery to town, and those of you that have been on a rickshaw drive before, then it's not like a car where you can wind up the windows. You have kind of winds coming at you from all around, and you cannot really protect yourself from the wind. So you cram up a few people at the back of a rickshaw. So it was Geshe and some of the school kids and their mom or aunt or what have you. Anyway, as you cruise around with a rickshaw and the wind is blowing on their hair, then kind of you get quite a lot of other people hair in your face. And Geshe said it was just unbearable. It was kind of really unbearable to have all this kind of hair coming at him, at his face. And he used to say, just kind of tight, just kind of get a grip. And kind of they were pretty kind of scared of him, kind of that he would force them to get a head shave or a haircut. But he was known to be the one that does not like hair.
Did that chiza that ngala nawa nashingi me phasha malaya madeva da and tindi gi chi so lego marasra now the mother said the so la ja nashingi chu khanda ji mai na ya ngazu chi ani phigi thong nashingi ani so laba la ra wandi and tindi ji chagam do asra khari yimba na ya ik kharten go arsandi now tar chume ba inza now tar chuyo ba na so tambu thong nashingi so laba le wandi the nashin chen give maybe loj detu go de dego marasra chokboina dego mar sasaina dego mar chalaina dego kanga deg mebadi now tar ma to be gunsen ra gunsen thing substitute shebana now tar ma to be gunsen reshas.
Anyway, this is just kind of an analogy, a way of thinking of how sometimes things appear to you in a certain way, but it's not that everyone else will perceive it in the same way. So although growing hair to Geshe's mind seems to be really uncomfortable, it is likely that for others it will appear comfortable. So things appear to us in a certain way, but we also assent to those appearances as if they are true. But things do not exist in the way that they appear, particularly as they appear to us to have this sense of solidity and cohesiveness. So when phenomena appear to your mind in a certain way, and then in some sense, when you reach out to them and you try to grab onto them to analyze and investigate whether they exist in the way that they appear to you, you see that you cannot find those traces of existence in the way that they appear to your mind, as if kind of there's nothing that you can grasp it when you start to analyze and investigate them in relation to not only those phenomena, but also to your friends and relatives and so forth. None of them exist in the way that they appear to your mind.
The deni 지 갈sun 거선디 아니 나주도 따온디 유코랑 라왕 원 쮸데바치 롤행기라야 롤행기기 남술이야 제투바이나 롤행기라야 유코랑 라왕 쮸바타바치 nangiores ro di ani yul ti rawang gi thoni thubareves lavaina ani ti mares kansna rawang gi thoni thubyobaina khanglaya matembach madebaj goguyobainsa ani chu khandraji na ya songwe bi yul manju mi gi thonde ya nawe kode ya bi lagbe re gi yoba chamalo ani shenlaya ten chubaji mato koran rangtub ju chubishabaji zawani yo mares tinza ani naundar matru dusungora ra.
But the deeper meaning of not existing in a way that things appear to your mind is in terms of things appear to us as if they exist completely independently by their own power, in and of themselves. So though things, whatever exists, whatever appears to our mind, it appears as if it exists in and of itself by its own power. Nothing exists in this manner. Whatever exists, exists only depends upon or in relation to others. So there are things which appear to our eyes, things that are visible to us, what we see, what we touch, what we reach to and try to take hold. All of those different things have a certain mode of appearance. They appear to us as if they exist by their own power, in and of themselves, independently. But none of them exist in this way. They can only exist independent on and in relation to others.
Tirda dinza tön tubareset the tön tubareset the dichutam jelaya tanda dinalaya yul soma yujin zimba de gyula dimi kanza sumjalaya jarni sungu yobanza dan zimba de gyula dimi kanza di ngaran sutta wares ra ngaran so ya ani rawang tuba mares ani ten tubares pe cha shabayna 당안주 미차진 미첨부차 안 소소소기 베기 아니 벤주 주투야 다치 소소소 감베간 란 조투야디 칼 때니 총바레 라 규게 라바질 상다나 파마니카딘 때니 총바이 뭐 야치 야다 말았어 안주 파마니카딘 때니 전부 든지 차지 안 소소소 기부치는 조투야디 파마니카딘 야치긴 바인사 아니 다 소수 첨부 차사디기 소수 첨부 차온디 파마랑신 게로로 파마 겐고 차사디기 남메타니 에피게 셈니 르탄샤야토조 유그 니룩담 멘테바치 소수기 미체기 아니 규름담 멘테바치 아니 샤고레스 라데 디 상르담바이나 아니 오네 파마라야 랑신기 아니 구지다 잠젤레디아치 라 소수 파말야 구지다 잠지 가주 시버 디저기 타르소소 게온디게 부부주 영이 지바나 소수 부부주 소소라야 아니 장부다 저버칭이 게지 매바이나야 소수 겐고체 카두라 아니 샹기 속에 그 게르 소소라야 아니 구지다 잠경체 등이 딘디지 차그레스 그 윤대근 저다레스 딘디 송고도 아스라.
And so when the text says, consider all phenomena as like dreams, examine the nature of unborn awareness, the remedy itself is released on its own place. The commentary says that we consider that all phenomena, the lack of true existence of phenomena included amongst the objects that are apprehended. Then the second line refers to the apprehending consciousness not truly existing. Then the third line indicates the means for comprehending the lack of true existence even of yourself, the investigator, which means that we have phenomena, existing phenomena. The consciousness that apprehends phenomena, and also the person that has that consciousness, none of them exists independently. None of them exist truly, none of them exist in and of themselves, but they can only exist in dependence on and in relation to others. So we can think about the relevance of this point with respect to ourselves, for example, as human beings. So whatever we are at the moment, we have grown up from being young people, small kids, young adults, and so forth. We can take care of ourselves. We can rise up, you can say, by ourselves, stand on our 2 feet. Whatever we are capable of doing at the moment, we acquire that in depending upon others. Like, for example, it depends upon, first off, the kindness of our parents. We can only function or do what we can because we were cared for by others like our parents. So, and it's particularly also relevant to the time in which your parents grow old, where you think that the reason that now you can take care of yourself and do things by yourself is because you were cared for with a great concern by your parents. So neglecting your parents is something that would be completely not compatible with the way that you were brought up. So in that sense, when we think of having to develop a sense of love and appreciation and sense of respect to others and also our parents, if we can, if we create a system in which it is those values are passed on from parents to the children and to the next one in line throughout the generation, when you see that your parents have taken such great care of you with love and concern, and when they grow old, then you also want to repay the kindness and treat them also with a sense of love and concern, then your children in turn will see this form of behavior, this kind of loving attitude, and they're likely also to treat you in a similar manner when you grow old. So it's really, it's a good thing to think of. It's a beneficial thing to think of how we want these values to be passed on throughout the generations.
Tirda songwe dubati round matrava nashi ani songwa yul de chibi yujin zimbateya round matrava res lawandi the yul the yujin said Tuni shaya chire mato yula madubi yujin zimbaji shaya mares ro pena ngi miki ani suk tongu slavana ani suk mena zuk tongi mixi di yongya yomaras ro tinan shingi zimba di yula tuni shaba yul singi di ku yul di chibi yujin yobichani ani yul shaba ro tinza kansa digi ani pita ti gyula dembi kansa tigi bena ngen tongdos nge sorgdos nge shingu sadia pigi ani shijachi yobayanza ani nge shinda mashi said ro dindi namshaji tegor mado te mena ani kanjin namsha thamje ro rangwang trubaji gimbayana namsha thamje la roji chagoras ro dinza 먼저 남자 가리 태버디 그 셀을 되네로 주바인자 남자 태버디 송고레스로
And so when this section explains how whatever we apprehend, what does the apprehending, the consciousness, and also we ourselves, the ones that are doing this analysis investigation, none of us truly exists, not the apprehended, not the apprehending consciousness, not the person having that consciousness. None of them truly exist. It means that things exist in dependence or in relation on others. So object and subject do not exist independently, but they exist in relation to each other. Like, for example, when we think of the way that we apprehend things, like, for example, we can think of my eye is seeing something. We call it a form, something that is visible to the eye. My eye sees form. But with that form, there would be not an eye that is seeing form. So an eye seeing form is dependent upon form. And also the sight of form depends upon the eye. So though there is an appearance to a senses, to a consciousness as if things exist independently, then objects, but also the subject apprehending them, they can only exist in relation to each other. So then when we take it on to our realm of experience, when we think of I see something, I hear something, I feel something, I understand something, whatever we see, touch, understand, and so forth, all these objects of knowledge, understanding something, understanding an object of knowledge, all of these exist in dependence on and also in relation to the apprehending or understanding, the knowing consciousness. And without that dependency, without those relationships of dependency, nothing will make sense. All this presentation, you can say, will completely fall apart. Our understanding of what makes sense can still hold only because things are codependent or interdependent.
Tele dinda da number sanji shonle ya tenjong ki namsha di kichenbu shuchi da dinda kichenbu ro ti nganzo tek tenjong resam sha sha wa na ani lolan gyo do ya si ki yosama res ro tenjong yim su di katsu si shib tsabu sam tang to wan tsu si gi ani sosu gi ani sem gyo do ya sosu gi lega chedan gyo do ya ro lega chedan gyo do ndi le saktan lan gyo do go res le saktan gyo do wa na ti namen gi jebu tian gyo do go res ro te dindishin sung do asra pe cha ja wa na ngam zamblin di thola ya Serimbuchin dende yung nyanyero. Zamblin di tola ya serimbuchin debal yan zamblin koran ani chi torshik tan shawai na nganzo di tola ya kibuchi desa kora mewa. Di nanshin pe na nganzo chozo di nangla ya kibuchin denye chogyo wa na ani chozo din zingyon yabuchi macha na chozo din na kibuchin desa kora mewa. Di chi di nganzo del de 아니 디기 쿠유단 디 징경도 돌이야 상로 제마단 디도 나라래 규지 되고 사면 농축도 차거든 배는 남이질래 남질래 수수 난 칸바지어wen 칸바드는 기부지 되벌래 칸바드 다부 자고다 서로 또 사마 텐종 리비토네 아니 또 시스타보단 도스로 이는 아주 디 상로 걸고 말하더라.
And so if we think of phenomena as being dependently arisen, and just suffice with saying that they're dependently arisen phenomena, without understanding the subtleties, the different levels of subtleties of that, there's not much transformation that a mind will go through. In order for our mind to go through changes, we need to think and apprehend the different levels of dependencies, how things arise in dependence of others. And the more subtle we can become with our understanding, the more transformation could occur. It will transform the way that we behave, the way that we act, which means that the karma that we accumulate, and thereby it will also affect the ripening results that will arise in the future for us. So when we look at the way that we live, for example, we can think about it in coarse manners, like, for example, looking at the way that we live. It seems that in this world, particularly now, people really want to live a long life. People aspire to have a long life. But then if we visit distraction upon our surrounding, our environment, and so forth, it's behaving in a way that is contrary to what we wish for. If we, for example, want to live in a community or a center like that and to live happily and comfortably, and yet we do not take part in making sure that we preserve or that we keep whatever we have, then those conditions that we wish for will not occur for us. If it's just like saying that if you have a family and you have a nice house, but you let everything go to waste, if you neglect your house, your residence, and so forth, and still wish you to give you comfortable living conditions, that would be a contrary way of behaving. So those are just simple examples of thinking how things exist in relation on, in dependence on, and in relation to others, and therefore this understanding also affects the way that you behave.
어쨌든 리기로 다 텐종기 균선을 때네 라완도 마드비 출라야 삼로다야 제버치니 다지 텐종기 균선을 때네 라완도 마드비기 출디 니바니온디 로 셈레야 니바니온디 데니치 셈레야 카두이나야 셈디 안 디톨야 때네 데토야지 용기어레스로 근데 시우슈 차와는 디 코란리아 삼단 데토야지 용기도스 다 디체 안 델리아 셈테니 아니 가주스기 데바디타 냠바샤세난다 tomba니 곰 센난다 데렌도스 다 딘티지 곰바야부치 곰지야부치 태온디 가르치그레스라온디 다 데니 디 컴퓨터기 피기게 텐종기 리비기 토기 라운드 마드리비기 술라야 컴비 토기 아니 텐종기 테코나니라야 신줄로도 슈데비 마리비 짜와치비기 차다 모송글로디 차마로 피기 아니 라운드 마드리비기 똥발라파 팀트라야서로지 차고레스 로다 디르다 남산지비기 로종기 탈투 제단로 데레샤스로
And so we think of whatever exists, phenomena, as existing in dependence on and in relation to others, being dependent originations. And therefore, they do not independently exist. And the more we think about it, the more certainty arises in our mind with respect to that. And when we find conviction or certainty in the absence of independent existence of phenomena, phenomena do not exist independently. And when we attain a mind in a stable way, firm way and stable way to the absence of independent existence of phenomena, we develop habits. This is what we call, when we attend the mind to the absence of independent existence, this is what we call a meditative equipoise. So we sustain this meditative equipoise to develop stability with recognition of the absence of independent existence. And when we develop habits, when the mind becomes more accustomed to the recognition of the absence of independent existence, using the reasons of dependent origination, concluding that therefore things do not exist independently, we undermine ignorance, which is the very foundation for all of our disturbing emotions. So the understanding of the absence of independent existence is an understanding that is completely contrary to the way that delusion or confusion, ignorance apprehends existence. If we undermine ignorance, we will also weaken anger, attachment, and all other disturbing emotions, which means that through the process, we will make them dissolve into the sphere of absence of independent existence.
데르데디마도 아니지 나와나신게 비게 아니 샴바 딜레데바나 유코랑은 트바다오치 라왕게 트바다오치 소소소 라왕인 삼삼로치 딘지지기 톨라요 로자바 아니 차단게 로디 낭게 펠린 고스레스 로 차무고스레야 차야 당무고스레야 당와키야 아니 젠섬다 탁도세다 지 민틴초고 로참 로페 상가자와 난시지는 소수샘레 레온디 디원게 자와 렉비 자와 게비 자와 세디 간댕기 자와 세디 제모도고 차 안델데니 랭에버서 디 데블라야 아니 동아용데야지 디차고라스 디치닝 마레스 티 뻥버체발라야 아니 텐종게 데코는 통고도 세데디 좀된디 코랑 우스 식 뇨한테 라 어두센니 다 오늘 잔이기 샘 딩기다 아니 샤츠다가 돈당한줄라 담샤요기다 랍샤치그레도 왔어 디 간주기 데스치 아니 녀자 마제바나 아니 다지 가서 다 규다 매교서를 자기도 왔으러 신경지만 규다 매진도 마시는 마시병 몸병 단다버니 캠을 그 캠되기로 왔으러
And so things appear to us in a certain way. They appear as if they exist independently. Not only they appear to our mind as if they exist independently, we cling on to that appearance as if it is correct. We assent to those appearances in trusting that things exist independently in the way that they appear to us. And it depends upon clinging or grasping, adhering to that appearance of independent existence, anger arises, attachment arises. We become attached to things that we do not need to become attached to. We become hostile towards things that we shouldn't have aversion towards, jealousy and competitiveness and so forth. All of these disturbing emotions rush up and arise in our mind because we assent to things existing in a way that they appear to our mind as if they exist independently. But then, so then not only those afflictive emotions arise in our mind, we also then start to behave in a way that is not honest, dishonest, in trusting those afflictive states of mind. We behave in a negative way, and that negative way brings about suffering. So this is something that is completely not suitable to us. And to eliminate that, we develop an understanding of dependently arisen phenomena in order to counteract a belief in independent existence that comes through the way that things appear to our mind. We develop an understanding of dependent origination. It's taught to us so kindly by the Buddha teacher. So we let that affect our mind. So then, for us, at least, if we have trust in those teachings, or if we understand some of those teachings, if we do not really pay attention to phenomena being dependently arisen phenomena, would be in some sense wasting the potential or the potential or the kindness of the Buddha, the teacher that taught us the meaning of reality through teaching dependent origination. Of course, if you haven't turned your mind towards those teachings, or if you haven't had or understood the meaning of dependent origination, then it'd be in some sense unfair to say that therefore you're wasting your life and so on and so forth. But at least if you have understood the meaning of those teachings, but you don't let that affect your mind, that would be a waste. Victoria is saying, if we were to see everything as pamper, you say pamper? All right. Oh, all right, permanent. I thought it's a word in English that that maybe I don't know it. Okay, maybe permanent would be, would that be a mental or material object? And does pamper? Ah, it is a word. Let's Google pamper. There's Pamper village in Skinnadrabad. All right, Victoria, if you can unmute yourself. I think it might be a Hindi word. Okay. So what does it mean? If we were to see everything as pamper, would that be a mental or material object? And does pamper look like very light rain falling and related to subtle impermanence? Pamper se the Hindi ke tola chi kengi na. Pamper, pamper. Dila di Victoria gi kal lagi resina. Di peshe di tsi di Hindi tsi ji de dila.
Hello.
Hey, Victoria.
Sorry, it took me a little while to work out how to unmute myself. Lama Zopa Rinpoche used it one time, and I thought the description that he gave was that it looked like sort of very, very, very light, misty falling rain. I don't know more than that about the word.
Okay. So does pamper look like very light rain falling and related to subtle impermanence? The Hindi chi ingire. Yama tobare moche gi beje di mitaba chamo tola kamusundu Dila Mokpadavoya Mana Chapatandu Chapa Sisi Chamochi Tikput Sisi den the Chidoa. Dila Sig den the Chidaochi.
Mukpa.
Mari Gakitola.
Agmas.
Kanta de Mitapa Chamotoina, then the Chu Tamshe Mitapa Cham Chu Mitapa Tone. Then do Mitapa Chamotoina Chapa Sisi Daochi Chu Tone Tonya de Mixe Tongerve Igi Shiba Tongerve.
Metava Tamuda Igi Shibamanda Drasamia.
She's on Mitapa Chamotoina and so Mik Tonya de Tatan de Joa Joverve Cantonia de Denduchi.
Mig Tonya Jojo Maris. Mixi Ton Toki Samlaya Togetandi Jojo Yosaris. Ah, Metava Piti Metava Tamu Onsum Tossing Kanza di Mixilaya Kan Tomatigi. He togi touching Samlaya Chadan Tensuda Chiora. Think your drogosaris.
Make
Mixi
the
your dromaris.
not so Tonya de Bena Dile Chamo in the Jogi Mother.
Dromaris.
So Victoria tried to work out your question with Geshe. This is what I made of it. Kind of when we realize subtle impermanence, which means that the subtle change that impermanent phenomena, the subtle change that impermanent phenomena go through all the time, does it affect the way that we see things? Do we see things differently, like subtle dropping rain or very light rain falling and so forth? Well, Geshe says that first off, to realize subtle impermanence is to use our mental consciousness and realize subtle impermanence in relation to a changing phenomenon. So it's not something that we realize with our sense consciousness, our eye consciousness, but it is a mental realization. Now, the next question is, once we realize subtle impermanence, the constant process of changing from moment to moment, does it affect the way that we see things with our eye consciousness? Geshe reckons that it's not going to change the eye consciousness. We're still going to see things with our eyes in a similar way, but our attitude with respect to what we see will change, because currently when we see phenomena, and phenomena appear to our mind in a particular way, they appear to us to have this solidity, to be permanent, to be fixed, and so forth. So through developing an understanding of subtle impermanence, we might still see phenomena in a similar way, but we will not trust the appearance of phenomena. Well, they appear to us to have this sense of solidity. We will know that this is not the case because there's an ever-flowing process of change.
The Yishi dan one shi nigin rodandi bed logach ra. The piggy Yishi laya two your the inaya, two the inaya. Mishi pena on shi nangim, the mixi taugi, su toyati, so dargia ombu sujambati. So dargia ombu sujambati chigdasra. Dargia ombu sujambati, the chick shego nanshi chigabati. Helaya suk sharvi togi any mixi the kigores. Wambo di any my nyamondigi kunalaya suk shaya di massive chadro data. Nisam the diligence. The dicha on the any mixi the silver child. Any big ombu sujambalaya this any the tendu trichig tony and lug big. The ombu sujamba dipi and it tada zada long la soba to things and the zulaya pena and it nivajite to one and mixi ser dredge. Been a mixi can mixi and in tone to yag mixi get to yag gunsen so di peshi dinidoji. The Jajata loves him, but didn't insert some with the Ngara Samzera. Mix measure jora. Measure digi 옹부 숙진 바텔이야 로봇으로지 아 아니 뒤도지 율디 옹불이야 아니 세우차야지 세우샤야지 멜론디 치다 땅와는 멜론나 수세르는 미시 세우통도 어디나시 미시디 아니 세우차고 서레스 또 옹부마 냠온디 아주 류기온디 류레데면 옹부도 냠그러 옹부 냠온디 미시디 껴르다 어딘지 제샤스
Dela pejeti Victorgi pejetandi tsidi benibuni pejeti benbun sashta pejetidi benbun sen.
벤분 오케이 벤분 세나다지 벤분 세나 주사 창사 메주로지 르네로 베나 잘라지 가시도 잘라다 꼬즈모세자 유로 그래서 뒤저 조선디기 라번 참도 토르다 그 디소르지 라고다
So first of all, in Victoria's original question, the word is pempur about, and then I thought of maybe there's a word in Tibetan, penbun, maybe that's the word. Geshe said that if it's that the word that Lama Zopa Rinpoche was using, penbun, what it means is that when things kind of lose their substantiality, they start kind of falling apart. It's like, for example, if you have something that is made of fake leather and the expiry date arrives, when you touch it, it falls apart, So going back to Victoria's original question, if you realize subtle impermanence, is it that kind of when you see things, they fall apart, kind of like falling rain, kind of dissolving in that sense? Well, Geshe says that looking at the operation of our sense consciousnesses, our sense consciousnesses operate through a medium that we call in Buddhist philosophy an empowering condition. So for example, the I consciousness is working through a sense power, a unique empowering condition, an I sense power, which is like a mirror that reflects objects to the I consciousness. So the sense power is a physical organ, you can say. It's a very subtle form. It's a physical organ. So it might be that when you have a certain realization, it would be something that might enhance, you can say, might enhance the capacity of the sense power, like, for example, kind of wiping a mirror from dust, or you might be able to, in let's say conventional terms, if you use eye drops or whatever, then you can increase some of the lucidity of the sense power, but still it's a physical organ, so that as we grow old and all our body starts to deteriorate and fall apart, also it affects our sense powers, like for example the eye sense power, and as they grow old and they decline, then we lose the ability to see clearly. Our eyesight declines. Anyway, thank you very much. No worries. Thank you. We'll leave it here for now, and we'll leave now with reciting the dedication verses for whatever virtue or merit we've accumulated through listening and discussing this material. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chimrezik Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is unification of emptiness and compassion. The lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You uphold the subduer's moral way, who serves in the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine. O mercifully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. Thank you. And on Wednesday morning at 10:30, we have it's going to be His Holiness the Dalai Lama's birthday. So we will have a birthday party and cake and so forth. So if you would like to join us for His Honour's birthday party, then and also stay for lunch, then it's good to book through the office. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, so all the information is on the website. 9 o'clock in the morning, we have incense puja, and then here we're going to have cake and chai and making offerings, and then lunch. So an afternoon a DVD. So if you would like to come up, then check the website and book in if you want to have lunch with us. Thank you.